Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts. And I'm excited to kick off Season 2 of our podcast series in partnership with Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. It's called We Are REC. Every week we'll release a new episode talking to different people from REC about a host of different topics. We'll get tips for saving money on your electric bill. We'll talk about renewable energy and the impact it can have in our communities. We'll get some behind-the-scenes info about what happens when the power goes out in a storm. Don't miss out on information about community grants, scholarships, REC-hosted events, and more. Get every single episode on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or on Spotify. Just do a quick search for We Are REC. Hello and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Thursday. As you are listening to the show today, we, however, have pre-recorded our conversation over Zoom on a Wednesday afternoon. Joining me on the Zoom screen is Dr. Chuck Bishop. He is the superintendent at Clarke County Public Schools. This is part of an ongoing series where I've been trying to speak to all of the superintendents to give parents and the general community an idea of what's happening when school starts in the next couple of weeks. So, Dr. Bishop, thank you so much for taking some time to have a conversation with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and I also want to say before we get too far into the weeds, I also, I joked with Dr. Johnston when he was on the show with me last week that I didn't have a dog in the Shenandoah County school fight, and I don't have one in the Clarke County school fight either, though I do appreciate, I'm sure, the long hours and the huge stress levels that you have been dealing with for the last several months just to make sure that students can get their education as safe as possible. So thank you for the time and the energy that you're putting into this.
Well, you're quite welcome. It's been a labor of love, I guess would be the way to describe it. But it's been the most, I've been a school superintendent in Virginia for 15 years. I've just started year 7 here in Clarke, and it has been the most difficult process to work through because every time that we would reach resolution on one issue, it seems like we would open up 4 or 5 other items that needed a resolution as well. So it's not been easy. So we'd like to think that no stone has been left unturned, but something will happen.
Well, and you have the added issues of you're not just dealing with one customer base, so to speak. It's not like the only thing you have to think about are the students, because you also have to consider parents, and you have to consider your staff, and you have meals, and you have internet. There are so many other factors that go into educating our children these days.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, all of those pieces have to work in concert. And a transportation system that needs to operate in a way that we can manage and maintain the recommended physical distancing requirements, even on buses, adds a layer of difficulty that we don't typically have to work through. And then with our virtual students who are out there, whose parents have chosen to go virtual for the year, how do we provide meals to those students if they need them? So all of this is a multi-layered. There are no easy answers to any of it. And, we understand that by the nature of what we do, that there will be criticisms and people will have different ideas about how we should have done something or how we plan to do something. We try not to take it personal, but I can tell you that my entire staff here has worked way more hours than we typically would in a given school year as we look to start the year, and everybody's exhausted.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. So give me a quick overview of Clarke County Public Schools. How many schools do you have? How many students?
We have 4 schools. We anticipated an enrollment this year of 1,845 students in K-12. And we anticipated another 40 students in our pre-K program. So a small division, one of the smallest other than Rappahannock, that's fairly close to us. We are the smallest school system in the kind of this northern Shenandoah Valley region. But yet the requirements that we have to follow are the same as the larger school systems in Warren or Frederick or Loudoun or Fairfax. So, we don't get a break because we're small.
And is your school start date?
September 8th. So we start on Tuesday. This will be the first time that we have had a post-Labor Day start since I've been here. And I'm not sure if that had been done in the past. But really, the reason for the start is to allow us more time to prepare for this really unusual, atypical year.
And I understand you're going to start with a combination of hybrid in-person classes as well as virtual classes. Chris Boyce, the county administrator for Clarke County, was on the show in the middle of August and was talking just briefly about the surveys that you sent out, and that 30% of the parents wanted all virtual all the time. So I'm sure it was a struggle. You mentioned earlier balance, trying to find that balance between safety and what parents are comfortable with.
Absolutely. So we did a survey and asked parents, would you prefer a hybrid model or a virtual model? And that survey went to all parents K-12. Had about 30% overall of our parents, a little more than 30% of our parents preferred an all virtual option. So as we began to plan for this hybrid virtual kind of programs to coexist, and starting to put the pieces of the personnel puzzle together, and began to take a look at the different pieces of the puzzle, it became it was very challenging. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. The 30% of our families who chose virtual, some of them don't have internet. So how do we accomplish, having synchronous or asynchronous lessons for those students online? We knew from the beginning there was going to be this threshold where both of the programs could coexist and flourish. At our elementary schools, we will have teachers who are dedicated to virtual instruction only. At the middle and high school, we will start the year 100% virtual, however. So we have about 160 students at Boyce Elementary. We'll have 80 students a day there. We'll have about 250 at Cooley Elementary, so we'll have about 125 a day there that are in school 2 days a week. So we'll have orange and blue days. Our students will go to school on Mondays and Wednesdays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then when they're not in the building, they will have asynchronous learning activities that are not teacher directed. They're really, those activities will be designed to support what was taught in the in-person environment. But our school board really went through and did their due diligence on all of this. And probably some people might think that they took longer than they should have to reach a decision. The first decision that they made was to have all buildings in a hybrid model. And then as we started to communicate with staff about returning to work, it became apparent that we needed to take another look at our middle and high school programs. And thus the board decided at that point to go virtual. At least for the first 9 weeks, they'll review it at that point and then make a decision about how to move forward.
I love the idea that you have some teachers that you've designated as virtual only, because that was one of the things that I didn't understand. And I had a conversation several months ago with Jason, with Dr. Van Huculum from Winchester. And I was telling him that teachers already don't get paid enough for what they do in a normal, quote unquote, school year. I couldn't imagine how teachers were going to have to juggle live classes in person with students, while some kids were virtual, but some were watching it later, some were watching it live. I love the idea that you've kind of decided to, designate those out.
Yeah, and it worked out well for elementary schools, but one of the challenges that we were having at the high school, as a smallish high school, is Clarke County High School is going to have just shy of 700 students, or would have just shy of 700 students for the year, and we don't have teachers in specific areas that we could designate to be virtual only. As an example, a student in a career and technical education course, let's say a small engine repair, or a construction course, we would not have, or we do not have, a teacher that could teach that curriculum virtually. It would have had to have been a combo of those in-person students and students who were participating in the course in a virtual environment. So there were some significant challenges. And again, as a small high school, that's just one of the things that we often deal with. Our teachers don't generally have just one subject area they're responsible for. That they might have what we in our profession call 3 or 4 different preps. So 3 or 4 different classes that they're preparing for out of their 6 that they teach. So again, none of this was easy. Because we are small, we probably had some challenges that some of our colleagues in surrounding jurisdictions didn't have.
Now, do you have a regular conversation with Frederick County and Shenandoah County and Warren County? Have you guys do you get together and say, okay, well, here's what we've got to figure out. Okay, this is what we did and how we figured it out, and everybody try to come to some sort of good solution for everybody?
Yeah, really across the Commonwealth, there's a great partnership among school divisions. But for me here in Clarke, I communicate often with Dr. Sovine over in Frederick County and Dr. Van Hukelum in Winchester. Being on this side of the mountain and we're immediately adjacent to one another, it just makes sense that we kind of stay on the same page and we work together to accomplish a lot of the same tasks, because their issues are a little different than ours, but they're similar. And it just gives you a great opportunity to be able to just vent a little bit and talk about some of the things that are going on in your school system, and to, maybe get somebody else's perspective that says, hold on a minute now, have you thought about this? I've been around for a long time. You're 30 here in Virginia, 15 years as a superintendent, and I've even reached out to some colleagues in far Southwest Virginia and some other places that I've worked with and that people that I've known, just to have some conversations about how they're handling a particular piece of this.
Well, and uniformity is always important too, because like you said, Berryville and Clarke County are right on the border of Winchester and Frederick County. So you have parents that are working in different counties and living in Clarke County. Different school start dates, different ways that the schools are doing their learning does make it a little more complicated. So the more uniform you can be, the better I would think it would be for everybody involved.
Yeah, it is. It does make it nice because we do, many of our people in our community travel outside of Clarke County for work. So they're talking with friends and coworkers in Frederick County or over at Valley Health or, at Rubbermaid at work, or we even have folks that go the other way over into Loudoun County. So we often get compared. So if we can be fairly similar, I think it helps all of us.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, can we talk a little bit, you touched on it a second ago, internet access, laptops, meals, and how all of those logistics are going to come back full circle. Can we do that in the next segment?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Chuck Bishop. He is the superintendent at Clarke County Public Schools. You are listening to The Valley Today. I'm Janet Michael, and we will be right back.
Do you know anyone who is struggling with financial hardships because of coronavirus? Our new webinar called Coping with the Money Crunch can help. We'll talk about immediate options to consider, revising or creating a spending plan, and lots of community resources. Then we'll cover how to narrow your priorities, contact creditors, and avoid scams and risky loans. The webinar is free, and you can either join by phone or through Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer. You can find out more by visiting the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program on Facebook or calling Karen Poff at 540-635-4549. Let me show you how to make your own plan or help someone you care about get through the crisis. Call 635-4549 or visit @NSV Financial Education on Facebook today.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. We are having a conversation today on a Zoom screen with Dr. Chuck Bishop. He is the superintendent at Clarke County Public Schools. Their schools are slated to start next Tuesday on September 8th in a hybrid version. Dr. Bishop, you said hybrid in person for elementary, but middle and high school we're going to be all virtual. But this is all still semi-temporary because you'll reevaluate at the end of 9 weeks.
Well, what our school board has said is that they're going to reevaluate the situation as we move kind of by each quarter. So our first quarter would end on November the 10th. So I anticipate, bringing before the board and our October meeting, which is the fourth Monday in October, any information that they might need to be able to make an informed decision about how we continue to move forward in the second quarter. But yes, we will start our elementary schools in the hybrid model, and our middle and high schools will start 100% virtual.
Well, and I would imagine that not being able to plan any further ahead than October or November is another nightmare, because typically school years are what school years are, and it's already in place and planned, and you can't take advantage of any of that now.
No, I mean, this is, this is new. I don't want to keep going back and mentioning my experience, but, this is the one thing, well, there are many things that I wasn't taught in school, and as part of my doctoral program or any master's or bachelor's program. This is the one item that nobody has any experience with. So we've often joked and said it's like putting the wings on as you fly it, because we back in the spring, we were closed fairly abruptly. Within 2 weeks, we were closed. We had really no plan for any kind of continuity of instruction at that point. So throughout the spring and even into the summer, we've been able to at least focus. But as I indicated in the first segment, we would reach resolution on one item, and there would be 3 or 4 or 5 other things that we said, oh, hold on a minute, what about this or what about that? So every day has been a different challenge and a new experience.
Well, on the bright side, you'll be able to now go back and teach for everyone going through their doctoral programs to become a superintendent. You can do a special class now in what to do in cases of pandemic.
Well, I hope those that follow me, and I guess I'm closer to retirement than I am to beginning my career, but I hope that those who follow, those of us who are serving in this capacity now, don't have to ever go through this again.
Yeah, to say this is a one-off thing would be a great thing to be able to say.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned in the first segment, we were talking about the parent surveys that went out, and that about 30% of your parents had chosen all virtual, but with that came problems because many of them didn't live in an area where they had access to internet. What are you doing about internet access for some of those students?
So for a number of years, and I'll hit this very quickly, and then we'll talk about the access piece. For a number of years, we've been collecting data on who in our community has access and who doesn't, whether it's high speed, whether there's none at all, or whether there's kind of this intermittent access that really doesn't allow for much in terms of video streaming, et cetera. When we first started doing that about 2.5 years ago, it was really done in conjunction with the county, who at the time, and they've since revived this group, at the time had a broadband committee. And they were looking at ways to improve or increase broadband access throughout Clarke County. So that really was the genesis of how our surveys started 2.5 years ago. So let's transition to now. We have provided hotspots to families that indicated a need for one. Through both our student registration process, where we collect this information, and then just parents calling into their individual school saying, hey, I don't have high-speed access. How can we work together? Can you help me with this? So we've partnered with a company called Kajeet, K-A-J-E-E-T. Those hotspots are specifically designed for educational purposes. It is not a Verizon, AT&T, or other hotspot that you can go to your local cell phone store and buy. It does have limitations. It doesn't stream live instruction, but what we're going to have our teachers do is record video snips that can be downloaded, like the direct instruction piece, so that students that do not have access at home that have one of these devices can download to their Chromebook and be able to work offline. So that's one item. We do have a number of public Wi-Fi places here in Clarke County, including the typical, the McDonald's of the world, et cetera. But our Johnson Williams Middle School has a public Wi-Fi site that's hot all the time. The rec department, the Clarke County Joint Government Center, the Blue Ridge Fire Department up on the mountain. We have worked with the county on providing a public Wi-Fi spot for our families that live up on the mountain. And then 2 days a week at Boyce Elementary and then at Clarke County High School, we're going to offer an internet cafe from 5 to 7. The primary purpose of the internet cafe is to allow students to come into one of those facilities and to be able to download assignments, to work offline, and to also upload assignments back to the teacher. All of our teachers will have their work for the following or for the upcoming week completed by Friday at 3:30. So while parents are out at the grocery store over the weekend, or if they have to run to Winchester to run an errand, or if they go to church on Sunday, they could swing into Johnson Williams Middle School, Boyce Elementary, or Blue Ridge Fire Department, the Government Center parking lot with their child's device, access the public Wi-Fi, download assignments, and then work offline for the week, basically.
Wow.
So this has been, like everything else associated with this, has been a multi-layered approach. And there was no one way that we found that we were going to really be able to solve this issue. Part of the issue that we have here in Clarke is even the hotspots don't provide a strong enough signal in some locations of the county. So that's why we then went to the public Wi-Fi sites. That's why we went to the internet cafe idea to allow people to access their materials, class assignments and materials in a different way.
So you mentioned Chromebook. Do all students, were you issuing Chromebooks? Were kids kind of on their own? I mean, where were you from an equipment perspective?
So we are in our third year. This year would be our third year where all of our grades 6 to 12 students would have a Chromebook anyway. So we placed an order back in May for a couple of hundred additional Chromebooks because we were assuming we were going to be able to use, or we would need those as we potentially need those as we start the year. We placed an order early on. 3 months later, we got them last Friday.
Oh, wow.
We placed the order in May, got them last Friday. So our tech department has worked, there's 6 or 7 of them downstairs that have been working all day yesterday and the large majority of this morning, getting those Chromebooks or those devices ready to go out tomorrow to those students who need a device. So we're able to accommodate our elementary school students who have requested a device. And of course, all of our students in grades 6 to 12 would already had one anyway.
So
but I understand now that if my tech director told me today that if we placed an order today for Chromebooks, the estimated delivery date's in December.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So significant back order.
Yeah. And things that you take for granted, again, going back to what you were saying before, you don't really think about some of those pieces until suddenly you're like, oh, but wait. So if you don't have internet access, the odds that you also have some sort of Chromebook or laptop are slim, because what would you do with it if you can't get on the internet?
Right. The other thing that we've done is we had some laptops, some Dell laptops here in our department too, that we've been able to refurbish and have those ready. So we'll have a combination of Chromebooks and Dell laptops that'll go out to our elementary students, as I say, tomorrow evening.
Now, I know over the summer when school was out, you guys had a pretty robust meals program. You were still making sure that students had food to eat while it was summer break. How is that going to change once school starts next week?
So, well, we thought it was going to be one way and it's going to be another, evidently. So on Monday, we had planned to do our typical meal service for those students, those elementary students who were in school. We also were going to have the high schools serve as a hub for preparation of meals for students who had chosen the virtual option. On Monday, the USDA announced that they are going to extend the feeding program that we've been operating under since March through December 31st. There's actually a webinar tomorrow at 2 o'clock that we're going to be listening to find out the specifics of that. So our plan all along was to have the in-person meals charged, as we typically would. Student parents would be paying for those meals. Our free and reduced lunch students or free and reduced meal students would have been offered those meals free of charge or reduced. And that looks like it might change based on what we hear tomorrow. So I'm going to be a little vague on the meals program because within the next 24 hours, it'll probably be different.
Yeah, by the time people actually hear this show on Thursday afternoon, it could be completely different from what you think as we're sitting here at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Absolutely. One of the things in terms of our meal program, though, our meals at the elementary schools will be served either in the classroom or in some cases in the cafeteria if we can maintain social distancing requirements of the 6 feet. Not an ideal situation, but we're trying to use every available space. But our younger students, K-2, will eat meals in their classrooms.
Well, and I would think too that it's another way to kind of keep the fun in it for those younger students. It would be kind of cool to sit in their classroom and have lunch with their teacher, which doesn't normally happen in a regular setting.
That's right. That doesn't normally happen.
So before we wrap up, I want to make sure that everybody who's listening who has a child going to Clarke County Public Schools knows where they can get more information. And I mentioned to you during the break that you have a great segment on your website that's resources for parents. So tell me a little bit about that.
So we have a lot of resources. One is ongoing updates related to COVID-19. I'm actually getting ready to post our revised kind of reopening plan that's 60-some pages long, but it has everything in there from transportation, not specific routes necessarily, but information about transportation, food service, the instructional program. So I'm actually getting ready to post those revisions because, again, those things change almost daily. We want to make sure we have the accurate information up for parents. So the other thing that we have are lots of resources related to our technology that we'll be pushing out and that students will need to access materials and assignments online. So tutorials, video tutorials, written tutorials for parents to be able to say, okay, well, how do I use this Chromebook? How do I get my student logged onto a Google Meet? Those kinds of things that people typically aren't worried about when it comes to public education. We want to make sure that our families have resources available. So right below the picture on our website, there are 3 links that provide a variety of resources. Public Wi-Fi access points are listed there as well for people who might have interest in where those public Wi-Fi access points are. Again, use of the technology, schedules on, what a virtual day looks like at the high school, what a virtual day will look like at the elementary school. All that stuff is posted and is available. And one of our documents there, one of our links there has an ongoing list, even back from March, on kind of what we've done and how we've done it. So we could push information out to our community and to our families.
Well, and I love that because this is one of those situations where too much information there's no such thing as too much information.
No, and in all honesty, as a small school division, it's been difficult for us to keep up with all of the changes and not only making the changes, but then, getting those pushed out to people. I joke about this a lot, and it really has shown in this situation. As a small school division, we have the same requirements as the larger ones like in Fairfax or Virginia Beach or even down in the Roanoke area. The Department of Ed doesn't say to me, don't worry about that because you're a small school system. So what that means for us is we have fewer people working on particular plans. And our plan is required to be as detailed as others. But there's just fewer people working on it.
So where can people go to get more information about all of this information today? You mentioned the website. What is your web address?
So our web address is clarke.k12.va.us.
And does the school system have social media? I mean, do you guys have a Facebook page and
We
all
do.
of the different things?
We have a Twitter account at ccps_va because there are a couple of Clarke County public schools across the country, one in Nevada and one in Georgia. And then we also have a Facebook page, Clarke County Public Schools.
And those are probably great places for the most up-to-date information. If something should change, it's easy to quickly push that out there.
They are. No, we don't have a specific media relations person in our division, so that usually falls on me. So I get things pushed out as quickly as I can.
Well, Dr. Bishop, thank you for taking some time today to have this conversation. I appreciate it, and I wish you nothing but the best and good luck on Tuesday when the kids come all excited, like rolling back into school.
Well, it's long overdue. We were talking about it earlier this week in the office, and we will be almost 6 months to the day since the last time our kids were in school. Our last day of school was March 13th, and we start on September 8th.
Wow.
So it's exciting to have some of our students back in our buildings. And we're looking forward to what we hope will be a great school year. And whether our students are in hybrid or virtual, we're going to do all that we can to make sure that teaching and learning takes place and that we meet the needs of our nearly 1,900 students.
We are going to wrap up today's conversation with Dr. Chuck Bishop. He is the superintendent at Clarke County Public Schools. Again, I will have links to everything that we discussed today up on the show notes page. You can find that at theriver953.com. Just click the podcast tab. But tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a different, interesting show. We're doing radiotherapy tomorrow. So I am having a conversation with Tiffany Markwood and Molly Thomaseb. They are both licensed clinical social workers, and we're going to answer some questions about how to keep yourself mentally healthy in the age of COVID. And I went to my friends and had them tell me what they're struggling with. So this is real life stuff tomorrow. Maybe back here a few minutes after noon, I'll have that show ready to go for you.